It is a really huge honor for me to introduce our first speaker today. Our first speaker today is Mr. Rushton Hurley. And Rushton Hurley, he's been a Japanese language teacher, a principal of an online school, a successful social benefit entrepreneur. He's the executive director of nextvista.org, the global project lead for the Krause Center for Innovation, or KCI as we know it, and he's currently the president of the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Rushton keynotes at conferences around the world on affordable and innovative technology, the power of digital media, and shares the perspectives and experiences of professionals in an ever-changing world in a really exciting way. So how about a big hand for our first speaker today, Mr. Rushton Hurley.
Welcome, everybody. I am going to ask you to recite some lyrics, and I'm hoping that you will join in if you know them. So please get past that little bit that might be in the way and join in if you know these lyrics. Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality. Open your eyes, look up to the skies, and see. What's that from? What's the song? Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah. And there's something special about that song, but I particularly like that line, open your eyes, look up to the skies, and see. Plato's allegory of the cave may come to mind. There are all sorts of things that are above and in front of us every day that we don't see because we just don't take notice. That, or we look once, come to a conclusion on tragically thin information, and we fail to see possibilities that we're that close to bringing forth some new success. Now, I'm an educator and a social benefit entrepreneur, and in this talk, I want to explore a number of different things, how we see these possibilities, how to better see these possibilities, as well as what allows us to foster and regularly experience success. Seeing differences in how successes happen in schools and businesses intrigues me. We've heard plenty of people say over the last couple of decades that schools should act more like businesses, and in some ways that's true. However, what is typically meant by that is that schools should act like good businesses. Good businesses, efficient operations that stay focused on their goals with leaders who bring out the best in their teams. That that's worth emulating is obvious enough. But it seems all too rare that we recognize that in that conversation, the businesses that meet that description are much more the exception than the rule. And if that's the case, then let's take another angle on this. There are plenty of businesses which should act like good schools. Good schools, places where learning from failure leads to success, where people explore new ways to address the variety of challenges they encounter every day, and where there is a focus on what each person can make happen and can learn to make happen as part of a team. If one had a choice between settings with and without these characteristics, all other things being equal, then choosing a community that has these strengths would be a one brain cell decision. However, how do you build such communities? How does success happen in any given setting? Well, I think it starts with an ability to communicate well. Is the communication where you work most characterized by fascinating possibilities or festering complaints? Now, one can start by knowing kind of what happens in any given setting by knowing where to listen. Where to listen. You learn tons about a school, for example, from listening to conversations that happen in the staff room. My friend Carol Ann McGuire once described a teacher's staff room as the place where hope goes to perish. But there are schools where the staff room is a place of exploration. How can we make that happen? How might we do this differently? I tried this in class today, and it totally bombed, but I asked the kids what they thought, and one of them gave me this amazing suggestion. I think it's always a mark of an organization that is geared toward success, that people are comfortable talking about what doesn't go well and how to make improvements. I've had the chance to work in several truly exploratory settings, including running several projects at the Krause Center for Innovation at Foothill College. It's a place dedicated to innovation in teaching and learning. It's a place where teachers explore new possibilities using technology, and together they design new experiences for their students. There's a constant back and forth that produces effective and engaging activities, especially for students who need something a little different. And these teachers, they take these ideas and they try them and they discuss them and they improve them and they repeat the process. Building an environment where dynamic learning and exploring are the norm sets a foundation for building successes. And it also requires overcoming barriers, a point to which we should turn. Let's do some more lyrics. Join in if you know them. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. That's Judy Garland and The Great Is. And it's a song from a wickedly beautiful story. But how does it speak to barriers? Now, certainly one serious barrier is a lack of imagination. What if the dreams that you dared to dream really would come true? It raises the question, what do you dare to dream? Do you make time for brainstorming creative ideas with loved ones, with friends, with colleagues at work? If so, what comes of it? How do you act on what you imagine? Now, entrepreneurship is in part about imagining the new. Several weeks ago, I was asked in an interview what entrepreneurship is. And I hope that my answer added something to that discussion. My rather broad definition was entrepreneurship is acting on interesting ideas. Now, that's less foreign to a school setting than many critics would contend. Acting on imagination is, after all, how children play, at least until sarcasm, cynicism, and low expectations sap it from them. Now, if you think of the adults you know in any given setting who are regularly happy, these are people who seem to have held on to that perspective that we can dream things into reality. And this carries over into educational innovation in interesting ways. The energy that underlies the maker movement, for example, centers on our ability to design, to realize, to revise, and repeat. And the resulting clear connection between effort and success is a primary characteristic we recognize in great organizations. Now, recognize also that something like this may mean stepping away from what has been comfortable. A certain amount of comfort is necessary. Too much gears us down past neutral to stagnant mediocrity. There's an interesting dynamic between comfort and the excitement that comes from innovation. Comfort can free us from pressing needs in order to be creative, and innovation requires our being willing to act on what our creativity envisions. An unwillingness to act, however, in essence, a failure to look up to the skies and see, and then go and try and do. That unwillingness is a formidable and imposing barrier to success. Another barrier is a horrible affliction, which way too many suffer. CIS. CIS, I've never heard of it. What is it? Do I have it? It's a malady that eats away at the very souls of those who have it. Do you have it? In that you're here, I'm guessing no. You probably don't. I'm assuming you chose to attend today and that your presence isn't the result of, say, having lost a bet. So what is it? What is the CIS? CIS is comparative inadequacy syndrome. Is it real? Sure. I mean, I made it up, but it's real. It's that tendency to zero in on what we can't do. I can't do what my colleagues do. I can't do what this person in the office or the classroom next door can do. I can't do this. I can't do that. And in schools, we see this with struggling students all the time. I can't do what everyone else can do. Never mind that everyone else is only 2 or 3 clearly successful members of the class. As teachers, we keep at it, knowing that for each child, recovered confidence can be an amazing springboard to some new success. CIS is essentially the result of a profound misunderstanding. It's a misunderstanding that is wildly effective at preventing success. And if you haven't heard anything I've said so far, I hope you will listen to what I say next. The only person to whom you ever need compare yourself is the you who you were yesterday. No matter your job and no matter your setting, you can take on one or more new ideas, new talents, new skills, and in so doing, you can become someone who can make a difference where perhaps you believed you couldn't. More lyrics. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in. There's an old man sitting next to me, making love to his tonic and gin. He says, "Son, can you play me a memory? I'm not really sure how it goes, but it's sad and it's sweet, and I knew it complete when I wore a younger man's clothes." Billy Joel. Now, when I work with teachers, I hope to the heavens that they aren't on this path. It's a path to the land of regrets. It's a path to a place that ignores the endless possibilities of now. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that no matter what you do, you can make it have meaning. Do you and your colleagues find ways to improve your community? How this happens in a school is clear. But does it happen in your business? Does it happen off campus? Perhaps it even happens by what you and your team do as volunteers. And I think this brings us to what I see as the foundation for organizational and personal success. Because team successes do not happen if individual members of the team do not feel personally successful. I'll make the point by quoting a first grader. And as background, you should know that my nonprofit, nextvista.org, challenges teachers and students to make and share short creative videos that teach something. Once a year, we also have contests which ask students to show the ways they work to improve their communities, or even to get to know the charities in their communities and tell their stories. This allows the organizations to gather new support and teaches the kids they have something powerful to give through the creative use of digital media. This brings us back to that foundation for organizational and personal success and that first grader's quote. This is from a video by Tricia Fugelstad and her students, her kindergartners and first graders in Arlington Heights, Illinois. It's about a project in which they made and sold ornaments called heart houses. These were sold in order to raise money for Superstorm Sandy victims. Now, their voices make it clear that they know what they're doing is important. And at one point, a child says, "Making a difference makes me happy." See, now that's a good outlook on the world. When I think of success, I think of the progression to paying attention to the larger world around us, to working with others to explore interesting ideas, to acting on those ideas to see what happens, to understanding that our actions can make a difference. In order to be successful, each of us needs to connect with those around us and act on the ideas that remind us that we have something to give, something that is typically much more than we had imagined. Over the last decade, creative engineers and artists have given us all kinds of new tools and enabled exciting new perspectives. But the breathtaking speed of technological change has also intimidated us, making us wonder if we can measure up in this ever-evolving world. One more set of lyrics. Come and listen to a story about a man named Jed, a poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food, and up through the ground came a bubbling crude, oil that is, black gold, Texas tea. What show is that from? Beverly Hillbillies. When I think of this, I actually think of my service organization, Rotary International. It's 110 years old and is admittedly fairly slow to make changes. Still, changes do happen. About 25 years ago, Rotary opened its doors to women, turning the tide against the common impression of the time that Rotary clubs were filled with people male, pale, and stale. And just over a decade ago, Rotary launched online clubs. These are eClubs, figuring out how technology can serve the business of service. And early this year, I led a team that launched SiliconValleyRotary.com. We're the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. It's an online club that attracts members fascinated by the opportunity, that opportunity to creatively address challenges and serve those in need. These are members who, due to work schedules, travel, or even illness, might never before have considered joining an online club. Now, there are certainly Rotarians for whom online clubs are a heretical departure from how they see the organization as a whole, but we're adding something new. We reach out to find new ways to share stories of service to others. We focus on innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. And we connect with and hear from those making the world a better place wherever they are in order to inspire people everywhere else. I think if a highly traditional 1.2 million member organization like Rotary can embrace online clubs, then your businesses and your schools can take what they do to another level through interesting new ideas. Consider the storyline that launches the Beverly Hillbillies. Something happens and a family finds itself with resources it never had before. And this prompts them to make a move to a new place filled with very different people. But the charm of the show is that this change in circumstances doesn't change who these people truly are. Sometimes improvement requires us to move our thoughts in a new direction. But that change in direction doesn't have to change who we truly are. Change itself can be a daunting barrier, a worry that strengths and successes from our pasts somehow have to be set aside. But perhaps one of the most important facets of success is that we are able to take the strengths that we have cultivated perhaps for decades and bring them to a new activity, to a new setting, and therefore to something that allows us to see that we have something new to give. When I think of success, I think of the progression, to paying attention to the larger world around us, to working with others to explore new ideas, to acting on those ideas to see what happens, to understanding that our actions can make a difference. In essence, to understanding that each and every one of us has something to give. As educators, it's a special joy of our work to see students discover that they are capable of more than they'd imagined. And this can happen on any team which, through exploration and good communication, figures out it can do more than it knew while learning to enjoy the process of getting there. You see, that's what allows us to sing songs of success. Now that's my talk, but not the end to my presentation. Exploration and innovation require a lot of listening, and also a swallowing of one's pride, one's ego, in order to hear what kind of criticism may be out there. And so I ask you right now to go to this page. It is a very short survey about the talk. There's only one required question. It asks you on a 1 to 10 to tell me whether this talk inspired you to see some new possibility for yourself, something inspiring. Where 1 is, not at all. 10 was, my life has changed, right? And there are another couple of questions there that I invite you to add your thoughts, because they can help me see new possibilities for what I do. I'm going to give you a minute or so to do this. Now, as you think about a survey like this, the cynical among you may doubt that I'll actually look at the responses. I tell you, no, I will. And you say, yes, 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 but when? Well, as it turns out, that would be now. This is the spreadsheet with the results from what you had to say as they started coming in moments ago. And I'm going to go to the form and go to the summary of responses. Turns out I'm doing pretty good. But I'll tell you this. The farther down to the left that one goes, the more valuable your thoughts are to helping me improve what I do. All of us can improve. Is there anyone in the room so good at what you do that there's no room for improvement? Just one? We need to be in that space where we can say, what is it that I can do? How can I make this better? How can I reach that kid who seems to be so far from connecting to his educational opportunities, we have to ask these kinds of questions and deal with those answers. And it gets us to a good place. I believe it gets us to a place where we stop and we say, all right, I know what I can try next. I hope that somewhere in this talk there was a good idea for you, something that inspires you to see the world a little differently. And I hope that you'll stay in touch. This is me 10 years ago. And how to stay in touch. There's my email. I answer every email I get, eventually. I'm on Twitter at RushtonH. If you see my tweets and they're worth following, then please follow me. I was a little late to Instagram, so I'm at Rushton Was Taken. There's a video library of about 1,600 videos that teachers and students from around the world have contributed to what we do. Feel free. There's resources there, freebies, especially for teachers there, and a newsletter, nextvista.org/newsletter. Tells about new videos we've added to our library, different things that we have going on, contests and such, and anything that I think might be inspiring to educators. And then there are these slides. You're welcome to go back and take a look at any of the slides I just shown you, because I'm happy to share those. And let me know how I can improve them. I welcome that. I finish my newsletter the same way every month, and I'll finish this talk with the same line now. May you inspire and be inspired each and every day. Thank you so much for coming this morning.